Unless Nora's here, maybe she could be stuck in security.
Is it in here at all? I forget. I forgot we were supposed to vote on something last time, but we couldn't, right? Okay, but it's not on our agenda.
We can't approve any of those previous things without Nora here.
My copy of the agenda, I don't think has the June 24th stuff. I think we should at least wait for Lisa.
Yeah, I guess so. Yes, you're right.
Okay. Were there a lot of people stuck at security?
I didn't really see completely. I just saw her.
You ready?
Let me turn
You
on.
know, I was gonna.
Okay.
Syracuse Board of Zoning Appeals meeting of August 5th, 2021 is now in session. The first order of business is to approve minutes from, actually, I think a couple of meetings. So let's start with adoption of the June 24th, 2021 minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
I don't think you can because we don't have.
Oh,
No quorum, we need Nora, and Karen wasn't
need
there.
okay, so we can't do that. Let's do July 15th, Mike Stanton. We can. Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes of the July 15th, 2021 minutes?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any modifications or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
No opposition? That's unanimous. So we cannot do resolutions either for the 24th, so we can adopt the resolutions for July 15th, 2021 meeting. Is there a motion to adopt the resolutions?
So moved.
Second.
Any modifications or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous as well. The resolutions are passed. The board will now conduct the public hearings on today's agenda. The way we work it here is that first the applicant or the applicant's representative will state the reasons for the requested variance and present any material or documentation which is to be considered regarding the proposal. Next, persons wishing to speak in favor of the proposal will be given the opportunity to address the board. Then persons who wish to speak in opposition will be allowed to address the board. Finally, the applicant or representative will be given the option to make any closing arguments or comments to the board. Following the public hearings this afternoon, the board may make a decision on each application heard. The board may also decide to hold its decision until the next public hearing. If the hearing is closed, no additional information will be allowed into the record except for information that the board may request. That information will be available for public review at the zoning office in City Hall Commons. I'll ask anyone who steps up to the microphone to please state their name and address first. Staff will now introduce the first application.
Good afternoon. Our first hearing this afternoon is V-21-13. It's an area variance request to waive density and required parking at property located at 405 East Division Street. The proposal is to establish 3 dwelling units. The owner applicant is Dominic Zavaglia. The zoning district is local business class A.
The applicant present?
We're both here. Thomas Robertson, Robertson, 333 East Onondaga Street, second floor, City of Syracuse, 13202. Mr. Zavaglia is here as well. We filed this request for a variance, and we already received something back saying it would be approved if we put in a new site plan with a sidewalk and curb cut, which we're working on presently. The property has a barber shop on the main floor and a small apartment on the street level, and two, if I may, breathe while I talk,
That's okay.
two upstairs apartments. And the documentation we submitted shows that it had previously been, in 2009, had already been approved for the use we're requesting. Mr. Zavaglia is a small mom and pop landlord in town, and he's requesting the variance so that he can make the best use of the building. There won't be any adverse effect to the neighborhood. The allegation is not, the problem is not self-created because it's always been like that, except in the city records. That's why we've made the application. We already received something back saying we have to present a site plan with a curb cut and a sidewalk, and the city will consider using their contractor, and we're going to compare prices, I guess.
So if you want this, please.
Would you say that?
When did he purchase this property?
When did you buy the
24,
property?
okay, 2004. Okay, never mind.
04?
Yeah, 2004. Okay.
Mr. Zavaglia indicates he purchased it in 2004.
Okay. So now, in this document from December 17, 2009, you did have 3 apartments and 1 commercial, right? So what happened? So why are you here, basically? What happened?
Well, we went to get the certificate of compliance, the new updated certificate of compliance, and the records indicated, your city records at zoning or code or whatever indicated that it was only 2 and 1 commercial. So since this one, there's been a series of changes. I believe I spoke with Ms. Walsh at length at one point, and we can't quite figure it out because we weren't here at the time.
Can I get a clarification? Are we approving the number of units in the building or just the parking spaces? Is it just an issue of the parking spaces for us today?
No, density as well.
Density as well. So, but it's not a use variance. It's the density and the parking. All right.
Other questions from the board?
Question to staff. When does the sidewalk become a city issue and not the owner's issue?
Now, okay, now, that neighborhood and the apartments, would these people that rent, would they be expected to have cars?
I believe Mr. Zavaglia would be more appropriate to answer that question. Do your current tenants have automobiles?
Out of the 3 apartments, only one got a car
Okay.
at this time.
The barber also only keeps appointment hours. He's not like every 10 to 6 every day. He does appointment hours only.
What about future tenants? Whether or not they have vehicles? So,
The density is a major difference. The requirement now is 3,000 square feet, and the proposed per unit is 1,700.
what about future tenants? Whether or not they will have vehicles?
I don't believe I can speak to that, ma'am, what's going to happen in the future.
Correct.
We can speak to the present and the past and
In keeping, presently, is the house all rented?
Yes.
Yes. And there's a working barber shop there as well?
correct.
And
Appointment hours,
Do
yes.
the present tenants all have cars?
Just one of the 3 apartments has 1 automobile.
Yeah.
And has that been consistent through the years, Dom? Is it-
Yes, I always been running into low-income people there, and hardly any of them have cars, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Over the years, that's how it's been.
Other questions? Other questions?
Well, I'll go back to my sidewalk question. At what point does the city take responsibility for sidewalks?
Sort of a complicated issue outside of zoning, but property owners are responsible for the maintenance of their sidewalk. When the city does step in and correct an issue, that's usually passed on to the taxes of the property. I don't have the nuances of that in front of me, but I can get that information. There is a sidewalk ordinance.
Which has been passed and approved, correct?
Yes, there's the recent one that's related to like snow removal and maintenance.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
But that doesn't have a bearing on what we're doing here today?
I don't think so.
It also says in the report from staff that a plumbing inspection certification is required. Is that something you'll be doing?
Didn't we already do the plumbing inspection?
Everything was inspected. The only thing that was holding me from getting the certificate of compliance was the zone.
He had the inspector out on a few occasions. My understanding is the inspectors have been there. They've passed everything except they noticed that there's this glitch in the matrix as far as getting the certificate of compliance.
Yeah, and the report also talks about the sidewalk and curb being in hazardous condition. Is that what you were talking about, putting a plan?
Mike, I believe I communicated with Ms. Walsh by email or by telephone since then, and there was an indication that we should provide a new site plan with the curb cut and sidewalk on the site plan. And then you would consider the matter. I was surprised to see this notice for the hearing today because we hadn't done that yet.
Now I forgot, now is there a driveway to the back of the building or is it from?
No,
No.
there's no driveway. Driveway? No driveway. I think there's an alley on the west. Yeah, it's too narrow.
Barely big enough for a person to walk down.
Right.
Yeah, just big enough for a drug deal.
Or store some garbage or trash bins, maybe.
Other questions? Thank you very much. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Is there anybody here who wishes to speak against the application? Hearing none, we will go on to our next case.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We could make a...
Okay, our next public hearing is for V-21-14. It's a use variance request to waive permitted uses at property located at 215 and 221 East Glen Avenue. The request is to establish a 2-family dwelling. The owner applicant is the Greater Syracuse Property Development Corporation. The property is zoned residential class A-1.
Good afternoon, I'm Terry Luckett from the Syracuse Land Bank. 431 East Fayette Street in Syracuse. 215 East Glen is a two-family home. It's located in an RA1 zoning district, which only allows single families. It was constructed in 1920. The land bank acquired the property in August 2019. The zoning office said that it went vacant in July of 2019, so it lost its grandfathering just this past July. Carol Green and Jalila Broom submitted a proposal to renovate the property as a long-term rental investment, and their purchase offer is contingent on the approval of this use variance, allowing them to operate the property in its current two-family configuration. Would you like me to go through the standards of proof? The buyers have agreed to pay $9,900 for the property and will invest another $87,000 in renovations. That investment yields a cap rate of 9.54%, and that's considered a reasonable return in Syracuse. If the variance is denied, we see two options for putting this property back into productive use. We could renovate it as a single family, or we could demolish it and sell the vacant lot. We actually did have an offer earlier this year from a buyer who wanted to convert the property to a single family. Her renovation costs exceeded the post-renovation value of the house, and the buyer backed out. Renovation costs for conversion to a single family is incrementally higher than maintaining the existing configuration because there's architectural design fees. They have to reconfigure the walls, the electric, the heating, the gas. The cap rate in that situation would drop to 3.54%, and the land bank believes that no buyer would be able to justify the conversion to a single-family home. The only other viable option in RA1 is demolition of the existing structure and sale of the vacant lot for new construction, or to sell it to the adjacent owners for additional parking and yard space. The estimated cost for demolition is about $25,000. If we were forced to demolish the property, these costs could never be recovered through the sale of the vacant lot. Private investors without the luxury of subsidies are not building in Syracuse, and we believe that the land would remain vacant for the foreseeable future. For these reasons, we believe that without the variance, land bank will be unable to sell the property or to realize a reasonable return. Approval of the request will allow the land bank to sell the property to a buyer who will bring it back to productive use. This will be desirable for the tax base, the neighborhood, and for future potential owners. Number 2, unique circumstances. If converted to a single family, this house would be outsized in comparison to other single families on the street. It's 1,100 square feet, or 88% larger than the average single-family home on this street. Another difference is that the property is located on a double lot. This makes it a good candidate for renovation as a two-family because it has adequate space for off-street parking. Number 3, neighborhood character. The approval of this variance as a 2-unit dwelling will not change the essential character of the neighborhood. Glen Avenue is made up of a mix of single-family and 4 other 2-family dwellings. Allowing the variance and the subsequent sale of the property will improve the neighborhood by the redevelopment of this blighted structure. And number 4, the hardship is not self-created. This property was abandoned by an irresponsible property owner and fell into tax delinquency, allowing the non-conforming use to expire. It could be said that the hardship is the result of the inaction of this prior irresponsible owner in the chain of title. It was not the result of an action taken by either the land bank, the city of Syracuse, or by any future purchaser of the property. Thank you. The buyers are here if you have any questions.
Is there much renovation needed to use it as
She's gonna invest $87,000, but I'll let Carol speak.
Name and address, please.
Carol Green, 740 Westmoreland Ave, Syracuse, New York, 13210. And what was your question again?
How much renovations needed to the building?
The price was $87,000. It's basically it's more of the kitchen and the bathroom. So that's where mostly all the damage always at with the houses.
Ms. Luckett said that the house at 1,100 square feet is much bigger than the other houses in the neighborhood?
If you do it more, if you do it in one single family.
It's 3,000 total, is that right?
Right.
3,000?
No, not 3,000 total. Right?
25, maybe 25, I'm not sure.
And your plan is not to live there, right? You're going to rent both units?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
2 low-income family.
Families, too?
Yes.
I don't have the exact square footage.
That's okay, that's okay.
I did write it.
I heard it wrong. It didn't sound right, but you know.
The houses, I think, are like 1 story, and this is a 2-story. Yeah, on their street.
And it's an existing the 2 stories there.
Yeah.
Other questions?
So you have done this before, renovated a home?
I renovate property. I do my own property. I had property before, but I gave it up because I relocated. And now I'm working on expanding property for my daughter to know what it is to have income and establish and help low-income people in the community.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Is there anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the application?
I love it.
You're welcome to make a statement. Anybody else? Anybody wish to speak against the application?
My name's Catherine Dwyer, D-W-Y-E-R. I live at 211 East Glen Avenue, Syracuse, New York, 13205. 215 is right next to my house. I've lived in my house for 30-plus years, and that property has never been maintained. I have had to do some yard work, etc., because it's never been maintained. Initially, the land bank had told me it was going to be torn down because it was not repairable. Then I found out subsequently that they decided, because of money, that they couldn't tear it down, and they decided that it could be repaired. I have to object to Ms. Green saying that all that needs to be done are the kitchen and the bathrooms. Definitely they need to be done. But the foundation is cracked, the basement is damp, the stairs to the second floor, from what I observed, are not safe. The floors are splintered in the house. A new roof is needed, new siding is needed because asbestos shakes or shingles, I don't know, are on the house, and half of them have fallen off. The windows are all cracked and have been for years because it's been empty for 2+ years. I'm sure that electrical, plumbing, and HVAC will need to be replaced. And in fact, I don't think that it's in good shape to begin with. The neighbors, when they lived there, had to use my electricity at one point because their electricity was not working. The backyard is full now because the land bank cleaned it up. Previously, it was full of junk, and I called and complained to the land bank once they had owned it. But there's still tree limbs, etc., in the backyard, and all sorts of other garbage. Never been maintained. My concern is a 2-family house cannot be renovated for $87,000, which is what the land bank proposes, when you look at what I have said needs to be done. If it cannot be torn down, a single-family house seems to be more in line with the neighborhood. I know there are houses that are two-family houses in the neighborhood. The only ones really that are maintained primarily are those that are owner-occupied. The other ones are in disrepair. And even though the landlord, I don't even know if the landlord does really that much for them. A house, 2 houses down from mine, before it was purchased, the mail lady could not even put the mail in the box because the steps were in such disrepair. So those are the concerns that I have with non-owner occupied two-family houses, or as well as the fact that all the things, oh, and I didn't mention, the porch and the back deck probably need to be replaced. Definitely the railings need to be replaced on both the porch and the back deck. And the back deck is has a second door so that for exit in case of an emergency. And the front steps are wood over concrete, and the concrete's all crumbled and the wood is all cracked, and those steps need to be replaced also. So I really admire anybody who's optimistic about spending $87,000 to repair this house. If I thought it was possible, I would purchase the house. It is not possible, in my opinion, unless you have somebody who's doing all the work themselves.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, your home is a
Pardon?
you are a one-family home.
I'm a one-family house, yes.
Thank you.
To be clear, your preference is to have it demolished, and second would be a single family?
Correct. Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anybody else wish to speak against the application?
Kathy Stribley, 316 Monticello Drive North. I'm a resident of about 35 years in that neighborhood, and a friend and neighbor of Kathy Dwyer for about that long too. So I want to submit my information to you guys. So I'm just going back. I've lived in my house about as long as she has. I bought my house about the same time. I believe that when she first moved into her house, which I have pictured in this toward the end of this third page here, that the house was a single-family house, and it may have been illegally converted, but I'm not sure, into a two-family. Might have been, it was grandfathered along with things that happened on the street. But there's been significant erosion of these first 2 blocks of East Glen Avenue due to variances. Variances for 2 families. There's one on the corner that I presented there, which is, I think it's 113 East Glen Avenue, which has been granted a variance. It's a horrible mess between the tiny homes that were built on the corner and the Emmaus Center. That's the condition of that absentee landlord 2-family. The one at 333, 335 East Glen is closer to my house. That was a variance granted 2-family in our neighborhood. There are 2 other 2 families that are in good condition. They're owner occupied. And we know the owners because they're neighbors, and we have any problems with those. There's another one near Kathy that is in somewhat better condition lately, but like she said, was not in good condition for a long time. Emmaus has committed substantial amount of renovation to the variance granted commercial property that you did about 2 years ago. That's looking much better, and they operate their Emmaus Center right near this property that you're considering another variance for. But the erosion there is great, and if we don't get more stability, it will just continue to go downhill. Kathy is one of the last remaining stable property owners in that block. I know because I've known the area for a long time. There's a couple across the street. It's, you know, it's a very tenuous area. I want to address the hardship case, that the structure is larger than other structures. That's true. However, it should be compared to other houses on the street built before or around the same time as this house. It's still a little bit larger than that, but if you go from the 1920, 1910, even 1900, houses are much larger. And then as you go down the street, it was filled in with little ranches, closer to the size of my house, which is around 1,000 square foot. So when you average them all together, the size gets smaller and smaller as you add in all those newer structures. So when I did the calculations, I came up with slightly less than what it's more closer to 80% than 88%, but it is a larger building, I understand that. But when they calculate all those other small structures in, it's really not fair to look at that street that way. It's a very diverse age street with lots of different buildings in it. Okay, the applicant also claims the street consists of a mix of 1 and 2 family homes, but most of the 2 family homes are the result of a continuing pattern of the ZBA granting use variances to absentee landlords, and I include those pictures there. 215 East Glen has been an outstanding example of absentee landlords running their properties down, and Kathy has been the victim of it. I've talked to her over the years many, many times about this house. Not like this is the first time it's come up. Many, many times we've had a discussion about this house. So I'm concerned, even though this applicant is optimistic about being able to renovate it, if you look at the Zillow pictures, which are online, the bathrooms are destroyed, there's mold. The kitchens are destroyed, the floors, the walls, inside. Almost every system you can imagine is destroyed in there. When Kathy went over the exterior very well, she knows exactly what's going on around that house. When they first got it, the land bank told us it was going to be demolished. We didn't think there was any other possibility. Now, they seem to be thinking, well, we can't get enough money out of it, so let's go to this option. But really the only option is to demolish it and to replace it, ideally with a single-family home. The mayor has announced an initiative to do single-family home building. This is a good street for that. There's been a lot of property sales in the neighborhood, single-family homes, and the prices are rising. So I think before we say we just can't do anything here and the only option is a 2-family, we ought to look at what really can be done to help the neighborhood. This option, as it's presented, is, I'm thinking you probably need about $200,000 to put into that building before it's really livable. So let's look at what really could be good for the neighborhood. And I encourage you to look at the Zillow pictures. I think you'll see what I see. If you go look at the property, you'll see what Kathy sees on the exterior. So I encourage you to oppose this variance and I support demolition or replacement with a single-family home if it can't be converted into a single-family home, and I appreciate your consideration. I'm just saying, we need to have something to stop the erosion. It's continuing, and this is a property that contributes to, I don't want to see my neighbor leave. I mean, I really don't. I want to see my neighbor stay. And when the properties around her deteriorate, I get concerned. I don't have the same condition where I live, but I see what goes on the streets closer to Salina and particularly on East Glen Avenue.
How far are you from this house?
About 3 blocks.
So, again, your first preference is demolition and your second is single family?
We assumed this was going to be demolished. In fact, I spoke to Land Bank staff after they bought it, who came to the TNT meeting, and that was their assumption, I believe, at the time. And then it changed over.
The single family isn't a second choice.
For
She's saying,
her.
No,
Oh.
but no, she's saying they should demolish it and build a new house.
Yeah,
That's your first choice.
I think because it has a big lot, it's a good candidate for a new single-family house.
Yeah.
And there is a house on the street right across from it that's really pretty new. It's about 1986 or 7 or something like that. So new houses have been built in the neighborhood in the not too far distant future, or past rather.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak against the application? Hearing none, we invite the applicant and their representative to respond if they like.
Thank you very much. Kathy's right. We did originally have this house listed as a demo. During the pandemic, the Syracuse market has really turned around a bit. And so we had our sales staff going through properties and determining, well, you know, given that the market's a little bit better, can we try to sell these properties? So we listed it, and in fact 2 buyers did come forward. Our property manager, Dave Rowe, has 30 years of construction experience. He produced the renovation specs that are in your packet, and all of the things that the 2 speakers before addressed are in that renovation packet. They need to be addressed. What we'll do when we sell the property is we attach those very specs to a renovation mortgage. If the property is, after a year, they get a year to renovate the property. After a year, if they can't pass a land bank inspection or a certificate of adequacy inspection from the city of Syracuse, we could take the property back. So we won't release that lien until all of those renovations have been completed. Carol Green thinks she can address most of those problems cheaper than someone who is hiring an outside contractor because she runs her own construction business. So that's not an issue. On the subject of the mayor's initiative, this street is not, sadly, one of the streets that is targeted for that investment. So that new construction is not going to happen here under the mayor's initiative. I think I covered everything, but.
I can't, I don't know, 87,000, 200,000, I don't know the numbers. But what you're saying is that you recognize what the people in opposition are saying about this, and you feel at this moment that they are addressed by the applicant. You know, I looked at the Zillow pictures, and, you know, it's terrible.
True, it's a mess.
Yeah.
Most of our properties are.
Right, and I understand that. But in your organization's opinion, it can get, you know, you said that if it isn't, you take it back, but you think that the investment that the applicant's gonna make is going to restore, you know, make this property livable and decent and all that.
Yes.
Other questions? Would you like to make any, you're welcome to talk as well, you don't have to, but you're welcome to.
Well, the reason that I am trying to do investment is to help low-income people. I am not trying to clutter the area to make them uncomfortable. I don't rent to people that is gonna tear up the area. This is not my first property. I make sure everything on my property is correct and everything, and I do have, a contracting business, and I got my own little business going on, so I know how to do the repairs, and I'm always trying to make sure everything is comfortable for everybody before they even go in there. I'm not gonna put tenants in there to make it uncomfortable, and I'm not trying to make the other people on the street uncomfortable. So I'm not gonna rent to people that is gonna be able to tear up the area.
But I don't think that was their primary comments. Their primary comments are that they don't think that the investment you're talking about is going to be sufficient to make this place, to clean it up the way it needs to be, to get rid of the mold, to get rid of the water seepage, to get rid of the, cracks and all that. That was their feeling.
Well, you gotta put money into stuff to get the job done. So if by them tearing it up and trying to rebuild, it's gonna cost more money to rebuild. But if they want me to buy the land and rebuild, I'm willing to do that if I can get the loan to do it. So, cause it costs, more to rebuild.
Right. Just one more time. Your budget for $87,000, you said, correct me if I'm wrong, because I can be wrong, you said kitchen and bathroom.
Yeah, the whole house is gonna be done over.
Okay.
My main source was where all the damage is really exactly at.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So from the porch on up to the painting to the ceiling, everything gonna be done. I know it's got to be done in the house, but the bathroom and the kitchen was the main thing that was really tore up. But the longer they keep these houses on the market, it's harder for people to get the money to repair them because the damage started deteriorating more. See, if
What
you
about
know,
the roof?
huh?
Do you believe that you need a new roof?
When I looked at the roof wasn't bad. But if I have to do a new roof over, I am going to do the new roof over because I'm doing one on my personal house too.
And are you the main carpenter, or are you the construction manager? What will be your role in fixing this up?
I am the construction manager. I make sure everything is set the way it's supposed
So
to
you'll
be.
have other people helping you do that?
Right.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Other questions?
So what would be your plan for the exterior? Because you talked about the kitchen, the bathroom.
The exterior is, I am
You're
going to
gonna
put
reside
new
it?
siding on it, the
You would
house.
take the siding
New
off?
windows in the house.
we're talking against each other here.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So you would take the old siding off and put a new siding, or you would
Yes.
paint it, or what?
I'm going to put new siding on, new windows in, and all the porch is going to be redone over. And the sidewalk all the way out, I'm going to do all that over. So the whole house really basically going to be redone over.
Everything in that renovation spec has to happen, or she won't pass it.
The renovation spec in our packet? I don't,
Yeah, I think I crashed that.
what page would it be?
The pro forma is in here.
Form is there. I can send you the renovation spec. It's usually a thick document, maybe 20, 25 pages.
I don't think we have it.
I think it might start on page 80.
Page what?
80?
80?
80?
That's the pro forma. Oh, I see.
Talking about, that's the money.
I typically send that in. If I didn't, it was an oversight, I didn't get it to you. But it's, Dave Rowe has 30 years of experience, and all of our specs address lead, so that it has to have new porches, new siding, new windows, kitchens and baths, painting, floors, all of it is always addressed in our spec.
You have been in front of us often. I don't recall that document being shared with us in other cases with the Syracuse Land Bank. I'm not positive on it.
I can get it over to you. It's
To
also
say,
available.
I would think 87,000 is kind of low for the repair.
I would make a motion to hold this over till we see the construction details.
It's available online, actually.
then just somebody send us the link and we'll look at it.
Does anyone second my motion? Yes? Okay.
Any discussion on that? There's a motion to hold the hearing till we review what we're talking about. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so, just want to get some more information.
Okay.
And then we will open the hearing up.
So that settles that.
And, that's public information, so anybody can be looking at that, right?
Yeah, it's on our website, it's attached to the property.
And just want to get all the information. Okay?
No problem.
Thank you. We will hopefully see you in 3 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Next case, please.
The next public hearing is V-21-15. It's an area variance request to waive the minimum lot width, property located at 517 Walnut Avenue. The request is to establish a six-family dwelling owned by the corner of Walnut LLC, zoned residential Class B.
Good afternoon, David Mosier, President Owner Harrington Mosier Architects, 1035 7th North Street, Suite 1, Liverpool, New York, 13088.
You can take it up while you speak if you want.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we're here here along with the owner to follow up on our application, requesting a variance for minimum lot width. They're required by current city ordinance is 50 feet wide. The existing property has a lot width in the front of 46.05 feet and a rear of 46.14 feet. To respond to if this was self-created, the answer has been no. This property, this lot has been this size probably ever since it's been constructed upon. So we're here seeking that variance for the development to convert the existing 4 dwelling units along with addition into 6 dwelling units for the owner.
And what we're considering is required is 50 feet and he is requesting 46.5 feet. No density issues here, though? Just the area variance.
There is a companion case that the planning commission is reviewing, the project site review, which is looking at the design and also parking.
Okay. So you own also the property at the corner, the Ward Wellington? And you have plans for that one as well, but that's coming further down the road?
Yeah, that's already been submitted upon. We've been in review with the city to make adjustments accordingly for that piece of property as well.
We're talking about this one. We're talking about this one, and he owns that one.
At 517 Walnut, people are living there currently?
Yeah, excuse me. Come on down. Introduce yourself, please.
My name is Jack Mamie, and I live in 200 East 72nd Street in New York, 10021.
The Upper East Side. Okay. So, I ask you a question.
Now, I said, is somebody living in there currently?
The lease has actually just expired at the end of July, and we bought the property a few weeks before that.
So how many, so it's totally empty?
Today it is, yeah.
Yeah, because when I drove by, it was like a lot of trash out there, looked, it wasn't very impressive, but anyway, if they've moved out, I guess.
Yeah, we're gonna gut the whole thing.
Yeah.
So there's a vacant area between this and the corner building. Is that part of the corner building?
Corner building.
There's, okay. So I guess why do you need the variance? Why not make it 50 feet?
They advised us not to re-subdivide it. They advised us to do it as 2 separate projects in our pre-development meeting.
Okay. Coming back to this particular project, though, you're asking for a variance of 3 some feet. Why do you need that?
I believe you need to have a minimum of 50 feet for multifamily housing.
So why don't you have a minimum of 50 feet?
Dave?
Because the existing lot is that size. And the owners to the north, there's different owners, and this lot size has been this lot size ever since it's been in the city.
Designed it to fit within?
Well, the lot width is existing. There's no adjustment we can make to the lot width.
Okay.
So it's not relevant to us that they're going from 4 to 6 apartments?
No, I guess not.
Yeah, we were able to, within all the other parameters of this lot, the constraints as they are, the ordinance, we were able to fit the design to meet that, except for the minimum lot width is 50 feet by ordinance. The existing lot is 46.05, so.
I see.
So you're only approving the 3-foot and a half foot change, but what you're saying is?
The unit that is there now, does that conform to code? It does. It's because they're adding more units into the building that a variance is needed?
Yes, it's not conforming right now.
It's not conforming.
Two family.
4.
Because that one needs 40 feet of frontage. But anything over 2 is 50.
So it's not conforming now, and
It's a legally existing nonconformity with 4, and that would be it's essentially like expanding a variance in a way, you know, even if I have that correctly, that you're assuming they're legally existing as a 4, and they're looking to add units, but the lot size isn't changing.
Will this be student housing? Because everything else in that area seems to be going student. Is this the students?
Well, in the past, we've tried to submit projects with 1 bathroom per bedroom, and they told us basically they didn't want that because that looked like student housing. So what we do now is 2 bathrooms per apartment, so, you know, not for every bedroom. And I believe the definition of that is just regular apartments. And I think it's classified as student competitive, not student housing. So it's just apartments that happen to be near a school, and you mostly get students.
Is it rented now?
The leases just expired on July 31st. We bought it a few weeks before that with the existing
Oh, so
leases.
you're a brand new owner, but
Yeah.
if the leases expired July 31st, I'm going to assume that there were students in there then. I mean, that,
Yeah, I think it was graduate students.
yeah, gotcha. Other questions?
And we've done a bunch of these projects nearby, behind it, down the block, like 6 of them.
are you affiliated with a company in Philadelphia?
No,
No, that's different.
that's Campus Apartments I think you're talking about.
I see.
And so you own these houses, but you operate out of New York?
I'm here usually every week, and we have a team here. We have a company.
So your corner of Walnut LLC for this property, is there a bigger organization that you're
Yeah, it's
from?
called Campus Prime.
Campus Prime, okay, thank you.
Anything else? Anything, Karen? Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Anybody wish to speak in favor of the application? Anybody wish to speak against the application?
I'm in favor, by the way.
Okay, fine, I had you down. Hearing none, we have another case?
Business, I think.
It's okay.
Green Street? Oh, Green Court. Green Court.
Oh, one more hearing, okay, let me find it, Danforth Street. No, that's Danforth is new business. Wait,
Page 127.
Genesee Street, tiny little houses, don't they?
Okay, our next public hearing is V-21-16. It's an area variance request to waive required parking at property located at 100, 102, 104 Green Street Court. The request is to construct a 3-family dwelling. The property is owned by the Greater Syracuse Property Development Corporation, and the applicant is Tiny Homes for Good. The zoning is residential Class B.
Hi, good afternoon. My name's Andrew Lanetta, 514 Roland Street, Syracuse, New York. I'm the Executive Director of a Tiny Home for Good. I'm here today to request a variance to waive the parking requirements at 100, 102, 104 Green Street Court. The intention is to build 3 tiny homes in what had been a vacant parcel, is still currently a vacant parcel. We acquired the 2 houses in front of it on Green Street, 334 and 336. In discussion with the land bank, also saw those vacant lots in the back as a great opportunity to utilize the land that had been demolished in 2016. They were struggling to find some use and just had a really hard time finding a developer to take it on. Our work and their effort to get this thing built kind of coincided, and that's why I'm here today. Now, there's a couple concerns. I'll talk about the 2 main concerns that I have for the parking there. It's a very, very narrow stretch back there. If we were to include legal parking, it would have to be in front. We would have to have 3 parking spaces right in front of the houses, which would also require another set of variances, so it'd be up here anyway. And there's no possibility that we could put it on the sides or in the back. The other, perhaps more important issue is that for the vast majority of our current tenants, of which we have 22, very few have vehicles. That is likely going to be the same case for the men and women who are moving to these houses out of the shelter system. And we don't really, one, want to pay the expense to put a driveway in, but also I think it looks a lot nicer having, well taken care of sidewalks with a really, really nice yard space as well. So that's our intention, and my hope is that you can see why we're hoping to waive the parking requirements at those parcels. Thank you.
So tiny row houses, is that the new name?
I don't know, tiny row houses. What had been there were 3, what is essentially trailers. They were about as narrow as maybe 8 feet wide, maybe 10 feet wide, and right next to each other. Those were demolished by the land bank in 2016. They were full of mold. They shared a sewer connection, and they were 3 separate parcels, didn't have parking as well. Anyway, it was a mess. What we're actually going to be building there is very similar to the structures that we built over on the corner of Highland and Knoll. So it'll be 3 378 square foot houses touching with firewall between them. And those seem to be working really well at our location on Highland.
You're expecting 1 person per unit?
Exactly. That's not what that's what we're requiring. That's what our leases ask for. And for the most part, our tenants have been in the shelter system for a long time. It would be great if they could reconnect with family, but that may not be a reality for a lot of the men and women who we house. So it has proven to be 1 person, 1 house has worked the best for us.
You are a nonprofit organization?
Yes, we're a not-for-profit.
So where are you getting your money?
Sure. So we charge a small amount of rent. Rent is based on the individual's income. So if they're collecting some form of Social Security, it's 30% of that total. If they're employed, then it's $300 flat. We cover utilities for the first year, and if a tenant decides to renew the lease, they pick up the utilities. But when I'm not here, don't have a tool belt on, I'm fundraising like a typical executive director of a not-for-profit does. So grant writing or asking very generous people to help support our work.
Yeah, we've seen you report over the years. How is this going as far as longevity of the people staying in the houses?
Yeah, I think that's how we really measure our success, is the amount of time our tenants are with us. And we've had tenants with us since we started building back in 2016 who are still with us today. We have, of course, had to ask a couple individuals to leave based on either non-payment or behavioral issues, but that is, I can count on one hand the number of evictions we've had to have since 2016.
Now, what is it now, like the house on the corner, it's not finished yet?
The house on the corner.
Green Street and Green Street.
Oh, right. So the 334 and 336 we also acquired from the land bank. 336 was a 1-family that was kind of between a demo candidate or a rehab candidate. We decided to rehab it. So we rehabbed it, and a family from Vera House Shelter moved in there at the beginning of this year. The house on the other corner, 334 Green, that you're referring to, is currently under construction and will be essentially a 2-unit apartment. So flat on the bottom, flat on the top. The bottom story will be handicap accessible.
What's on-street parking like there?
On-street parking it's a little tricky for sure, and just because it's odd or even parking, and there's an apartment complex right next to 336 that doesn't have adequate parking for themselves back there, so a lot of people park on the street. But to be on, as I said before, very few of our tenants.
Near a bus?
Yeah, right down the street on Lodi is the bus stop.
Now, the Green Street Court Street is it's like a driveway.
It's like a
Is that
driveway.
a concern, like for emergency vehicles would have to go down there?
Our intention is to abandon the street. We'd like to, our hope is we go through this process and then likely come back to you all again to abandon the street. Although I'm not certain if that's, Terry, is that the process at which we go back to you all to abandon the street?
It's us, but.
Not us.
Not you all.
Not-
Okay, well, I'll go somewhere else. But that is going to be the intention. Because to be honest, if we were to rebuild that street, as would be required with 5-foot sidewalks, we would then have like a 5-foot street. So we're going to try and abandon it and just turn it into a driveway for those properties.
Question? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Go away. Would your organization be interested in buying a house on Glen Ave?
Oh, that particular one. I'll see how you guys figure that out in 3 weeks, and then we'll see.
Anybody here speak in favor of the application? Anybody here wish to speak against the application? Hearing none, we will move on to our new business. 726 East Genesee. Is this the one we asked? Yes, applicant be present. Is someone here to talk about that?
I had contacted them, I had emailed them, and I had emailed our next case as well, and I definitely followed up with you. You said you were coming, and I guess we didn't hear from Ashley McGraw. Looking back, maybe I should have called them again, but I did reach out to them, so I don't know.
Well, we can hold it over again. I would make a motion to hold over this. Well, if they don't show up, then we'll still vote.
Is there a second?
My motion is to hold this over till the next meeting. Is there a second to that? She says sure.
Yeah.
With great enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Yes,
Absolutely.
with feeling. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, then the next one I will find is Danforth Street. And a use variance, so we asked them to appear too. Oh, somebody's here. Well, great. Come on down.
Lisa was very diligent in her follow-up, so. 2 emails, I think, and a phone call, so. Bronson Kopp, BRONSON-KOPP, I'm the Executive Director at Joseph's House for Women, 802 Court Street, Syracuse, 13208.
So just give us an idea of where you started, where you've been and what you're asking for now, please.
Sure. To give you just a brief history for those of you who may not know, Joseph's House is a home for pregnant or parenting women and their children who are experiencing homelessness in primarily Syracuse, but really we don't deny anybody admission based on geography. We opened the doors and began operating there in 2014. I didn't join the organization until 2017, so I wasn't part of all of the beginning work that was done to get it open. This began because we had applied for a permit to repave our driveway, which is in pretty bad disrepair, and we received a grant for $25,000 towards that to do it. And through a pre-development meeting, a question was raised about the variance that exists on the property and whether or not we were appropriately operating through that variance. My understanding when they began, when they were under contract to purchase the property as a nonprofit back in 2013, their then attorney worked with a member of the law department and reviewed the variance and was told that they were good to go to operate as they had planned in this facility. You know, for the past, gosh, almost 70 years, right? This was a convent. This was used as group housing. It was not used as a single-family home. It was used as pretty much complete shared housing from, I think, 54 to 2006. Whether that was through St. John the Baptist Church, Aquinas House, the Franciscan Friary for a while. It had quite a storied, holy history, if you will, until it went into private ownership. And then the previous owner had applied for the variance that is existing on the property and then sold it to Joseph's House in 2013.
So there is an outstanding variance that hasn't been completed? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to find out.
So my understanding is the variance that exists on the property, the reason that this became problematic is that it indicates that the back dormitory addition would be used as a dormitory, but the front of the house would be a single-family home, a single-family dwelling. You know, there's some language in the variance that's a little bit challenging, I would say, because there's really no way to separate off the dormitory wing from the residential, what was supposedly used as a residential portion of the house.
Now, who's going to live there? Is it some medical students will be living there? Is that the plan?
No. So that's what the previous owner had used in 2006. He rented it out to students on medical rotation, residency, that sort of thing. And it was owned by an LLC, and I believe from the representations made in that variance that one of the members of the LLC was using the front portion of the building as their main residence. But there's only one kitchen. There's only, you know, the way it's configured.
So when Joseph's house went in there, they were using the rear portion?
Correct. Since 2014, we've had residents living in the dormitories, and the front half of the house is used as common space. There's a chapel, there's living room space, there's dining room, kitchen, that has existed in the layout of the house since Archimedes Russell sketched it. You know, we have the print still that you know, dining and kitchen and some of the parlors that have existed are still being used.
So we're being asked to approve a change to the use variance.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm confused.
I believe so, yes. I believe so, because the use variance is very specific, and it lays out that it will be occupied by a single-family residence in the front of it. To be quite honest, that's completely impractical for this property without some serious renovation work that would need to be done. There's only one kitchen, right? There's no way that a family could use the front of the house and rent out the dorms in the back and have a separation. So Joseph's House serves women and their children who are either pregnant or parenting women. Correct, yes. Yeah, we plan to do, our goal, our hope is that we can just continue our operation here. We've purchased the property on Court Street and are working for plans for expansion for that property as well. Correct. Correct.
So Joseph's House has always been at this address?
Since 2013, they closed, I believe in August of 2013, opened the doors on March 19th, 2014. 7.5 years?
But this says that a variance was given in 2006.
Correct.
And then since 2006, things have changed. I was here then. Rings a bell.
Here it says a continuation, which usually means we give a variance for something to be done. It hasn't been done yet, and you're coming asking for more time to do it.
No, the continuation is because you asked them.
Oh,
We're
okay.
continuing this as.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So forget about the continuation. You're asking for,
It's a modification of the existing variance.
And what exactly?
What are we modifying? Yeah.
So there's some whereas clauses in there that, in the variance that talk about the proximity to the hospitals, to St. Joe's Hospital, the demand for housing for nursing students, that the owners will occupy the front half of the house, They'll generate income from that to help support the overall cost of operating the house. And none of that is relevant anymore. We still use the dormitory wing as a main, as housing for our residents, but it's not a single-family dwelling.
I could maybe clarify some of this.
Please.
Please.
Page 174.
174. Okay, that's where the whereases begin.
So the second whereas, what the original variance was for a single-family dwelling and a 14 dormitory-style rooms at the rear. This was supposed to be an owner-occupied property that would rent it out to specifically medical students, residents, and nursing students of dormitory style. And the hardship and the justification was that there was a demand by the hospital, and that had been the 11th whereas on page 1.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay.
So you see.
So if we were just to delete those whereases, does that fix things?
Well, we're not gonna delete anything. We'll write a new resolution, a new memo to, if you approve it, to make this use, their floor plans and their site plan whole, basically. So it will be, I wanna say cleaned up, but it's the wrong term. It will, if you approve it, you're approving what they do and their floor plan and their site plan.
You see this, they're telling us what whereases. So, okay, they're proposing replacing 3 whereas. 194. The home is uniquely designed with 16 room dormitory, including. Is there what's being used, the single-family part of it, what's that now?
That's all shared common space.
It's all shared, it's part of the dormitory?
Well, so the residents have their own room.
Right.
The rooms are about 10 by 14, so each resident has their own room. There's shared bathrooms, like a traditional dorm-style bathroom. There's one kitchen in the facility that is shared and used by all residents, overseen by staff 24/7, 365.
Now, do children live there too? Because like,
Yes.
sure, you have the mother, but now she has
Yes.
children. Where are they staying in her room or
Yes.
another room? Or?
Yep, they're staying with her. Most of our women come to us pregnant.
So they're
they-
babies. They're babies.
So they're infants most
they're
of the
not- I mean,
time.
they're not like
We do have
children.
residents that come to us with children already. They may have a toddler and be pregnant. And there's not a lot of housing options, shelter space available for families, for women in that situation. So we do have at the end of the hallway, I think you can see on the floor plans, there's on each floor, it's a suite. It's a 2-room suite. One of them shares a full bath, one of them shares a half bath. So occasionally we have women that come to us that have 2 children and are pregnant, or have a couple children in their care. So we utilize the suites when that occurs.
And this is because people that come to you don't have a place to go.
They have no place to go. They're homeless. They're homeless. They're calling us because they don't want to take their children to Salvation Army or the Rescue Mission, or they do wonderful work, but they're not a place that I think children should be. And right now, the other main program that would be available is Vera House Family Shelter. Quite frankly, they're often full, and if there's not a domestic violent threat, they can stay with us for up to 2 years. So we try to be a long-term solution to really help kind of break the cycle. A lot of our women have been, victims of generational poverty and abuse, and we try to really work with them to get them on their feet, and we actually provide support. We have a relationship with a landlord down the street that provide housing to them as they transition out, trying to pull them up so they can be productive members in our community.
Get them counseling for,
Yep.
for jobs.
Job training, life skills classes.
Parenting, right, and all
Parenting
that.
classes, cooking classes, nutrition, exercise, really.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a great thing you're doing. Okay, should we do new business first? Should we go to the cases first?
I'll leave that to the chair.
To the chair, okay. Well, let's do the cases. Okay, V21-13, 405 Division, East Division Street, density and parking. This is the first one. I have to remind myself. I know that his lawyer was here, and Alex Robertson was here. 3 dwelling units. Oh, okay. So it's an existing. It's to maintain a 3-unit place, and she requests waivers. Required 3,000, 1,716 feet. And required, so parking and density. Is there a motion?
Well, let's see what happens. I'm going to make a motion to deny.
I would recommend that if anybody is inclined to approve, just procedurally to allow a motion to approve, go first.
Okay.
So you're asking, I should ask if anybody wants to make a motion to approve?
Well, I said, just procedurally, it's better to let a motion.
Oh, I see.
If somebody is inclined to make it, of course, if nobody makes one, then your motion would be appropriate.
So let's wait and see.
So, is there a motion? Is there a motion? Okay, Mike has made a motion to deny. Is there a second?
Second.
Make your case, please.
Will there be a change to the neighborhood character? This is an existing condition that we're being asked to approve. I don't think it should be approved. The density difference between what is required and what is requested is enormous. It's almost 2 to 1. These units on average are less than 600 feet, whereas the standard is 1,000 feet. Are there alternative solutions available so that the variance is not needed? At various times, there have been fewer units in that building, and I think 2 units still would not, as I see it, meet the standard. That would be 2,000 is required, and they are only offering 1,716. So 1 or 2 units is the alternative solution. What's the magnitude of the variance being requested? It is very large in terms of the density. In fact, I don't have a large problem with the parking issue. It's the density of the building. Will there be an adverse effect on this to the surrounding neighborhood if the variance is approved? I think the unusual density in that building is a detriment to the neighborhood. And is this a self-created difficulty? It is because this building has been remodeled at various times to have 1 or 2 or 3 units, and I would recommend less than 3.
Mike, let me just, my thoughts. This has been, and tell me if I'm right or wrong, this has been operating like this for a real long time. Is that correct or not?
We don't know that.
So we didn't ask that question. We didn't ask if it...
Well, at one time, he had that certificate of compliance or occupancy, whatever it was, and it was from 2009, I believe. It had 3 apartments.
Yeah, and you know, they implied that, well, it's not on paper, but it's operated as a 3-unit place for forever. I don't see.
Yeah, because in this thing,
I mean, I'm not going to win anyway, but.
Number of units, the first floor 2, second floor 2, and then it's apartments 3, so, I don't know.
Yeah, then we didn't ask enough. But I don't think that's going to change Mike's mind anyway, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of denying the variance, say aye.
Aye.
All those voting against the motion, say aye. Aye. So, which one you?
She was aye for yes.
For yes, okay, so it went down, it was approved, the motion was approved 3-1.
3-1, yeah.
With me dissenting, okay, next.
It's a
Yeah,
failed vote.
It's a failed motion, now, I understand that, but I'm just telling you what the vote was, in case you care. V2114, use variance where you permitted uses, this is Glen Avenue,
We're holding it open.
you're holding that open, thank you. V2115, waive the minimum lot width, 517 Walnut Avenue, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
That's fine.
It's fine. Mike?
Will there be a change in neighborhood character? From the designs we've seen for the remodel, it will be an improvement. Are there alternate solutions available so that a variance is not needed? Going down to, I believe we were told, two-family would be the only way to come into compliance. The building as it is now, so I don't see that happening at that location. The magnitude of the variance being requested is not great, 50 feet to 46.05. Will there be an adverse effect on the surrounding neighborhood if this variance is approved? I think the rebuilt project will be superior to what's there now. Is this a self-created difficulty? It's not because the property they've acquired is already out of compliance. I don't see it as a self-created difficulty.
Mike Cheslick?
I agree with Mike.
Any other comments? All those in favor of approving the variance, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous, it's approved. Now, small tiny homes. V2116, 100, 102, 104 Green Street Court, is there a motion?
This is use. I'll make a motion, we approve.
Second,
I'll second.
thank you.
Will there be a change to the neighborhood? Well, supposedly, well, since now it's an empty space and these are going to be buildings put up, it should be a development, so I guess it would be an improvement to the neighborhood. An alternate solution, well, the other alternate solution would be to leave it blank. The magnitude is considering it's an empty lot and this is not a big request. Will there be an adverse effect? Again, I don't think so. And the self-created, no.
Anything else? Any comments?
I think it's good use of that inaccessible space.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's approved. Move on to new business. I gotta find that, a lot of pages. Yeah, let me use your piece of paper, it'll be easier. Okay, so East Chester Street, we've discussed already. Danforth Street is, okay, the Joseph's house, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I'll make a second.
Okay, does he have to give the whole rationale for that?
I would recommend, because it is use variance.
Page of the use variance. 2114. The applicant cannot realize a reasonable return, provided lack of return is substantial. Well, again, this is a nonprofit organization, and they're trying to help out help individuals out. So this is I think it's a moot point. The alleged hardship relating to the property in question is unique. Well, it is, because it was it's a dormitory attached to a very nice house, and I guess there was a little bit of confusion over the years of its use, and we're trying to straighten that out at this time. The requested variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character. There'll be no changes to the neighborhood. If anything, when we do this, they can pave their driveway, which will be an improvement, and it's not self-created. And it's a negative seeker.
Thank you. I was just going to ask if you put a seeker in.
Okay. Anything else? No. All those in favor of the approval, say aye. Aye. I have a piece of new business, but you're gonna have to tell me if it's appropriate here. I had talked to, I think you were both in the room, about missing the paper at home. Do we talk about that after the meeting, or we talk about it during the meeting?
You're saying you'd like to get it delivered to the house again?
Oh, okay, no problem.
Yeah, but I do not think it's appropriate for it to be delivered. I would like it put in the mail. There was never a problem with that at all. There was never a problem. Okay, so, fine. Authorizations, there's one, is there a motion?
Time.
Karen seconds, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion to adjourn. Make a motion.
Absolutely, yes.
Karen, okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. So we will all get